The Long Goodbye begins with our protagonist, Philip Marlowe, trying to feed his cat some food. A mundane, everyday activity that has no reason to be too complicated. However, the simple act evolves into something else. Marlowe has to buy a special type of cat food for his cat, the only food the cat likes. And after driving to a store, it turns out the store has none of that cat food. In this scene, we see the clerk tell Marlowe he's got a girl. Marlowe chuckles at this and snarks, "He's got a girl, I got a cat," before the catchy jazz theme song continues to play. This opening scene alone establishes two of the biggest trajectories of the film that will be explored in the next hour 40 minutes. Upon viewing Robert Altman's The Long Goodbye, it instantly became a favorite of mine. But upon letting it sink in, it's even more genius than I gave it credit for after that viewing. Between all the striking matches, firing guns, and glass bottles hitting faces, there's a somber and mysterious tale being told. Also, I'll be spoiling the film, so click away and watch it before you watch this. Philip Marlowe is a character who feels so isolated from the world around him, like there's some sort of barrier separating him from everyone. In the opening, we see him talking to Terry Lennox, a friend for a long time. This interaction between Marlowe and Lennox is something Marlowe will never have with anyone again throughout the film. This confidence in Lennox is shown through the way the two converse. The trust Marlowe places on Lennox is something he has with no one else. As I said, he's isolated. He doesn't have a connection with anyone like he has a connection with Lennox, and so this one small conversation at the start helps set up the motive as to why Marlowe is so obsessed with clearing Lennox's name. Altman could have taken the easy way out. He could have just said Marlowe wanted to clear Lennox's name because they were good friends. He could have not shown us the interaction. However, showing us the interaction and then showing us how Marlowe is lonely and disconnected from everyone else emphasizes how much this means to Marlowe. He's a lonely soul scrambling for some sort of person to place his trust on. He found that person with Lennox, so it's natural for him to fall into this obsession with the clearing of his friend's name. He was more than a friend, not a lover, but someone he had found comfort in. This is why the ending of the film is so shocking in the best way possible. After discovering that Lennox is alive, Marlowe finds him. Lennox explains that everything that happened. Marlowe realizes Lennox used him to escape so he could get away from his situation and leave his quote-unquote death for Marlowe to think about. Nobody would care. Nobody cares but him.
Yeah. Nobody cares but me.
The realization that he really is isolated. There's no one for him to trust, and no one who cares.
You're
A born loser, and he even lost his cat.
Yeah, I even lost my cat.
Or, well, his cat left him. With a swift movement, Lennox is dead as his blood floats up, staining the river. And with a careless waltz, Marlowe leaves, the theme song playing as he walks into the distance. There are people around him, a person he knew, but they don't have anything to do with him, and he doesn't have anything to do with them. The Long Goodbye's irregular mundanity is one of the key aspects of the film. A lot of the film feels so distant from our real world, but the acts performed aren't outside of the normal. It finds regularity within absurdity and absurdity within regularity. It's such a strange film in this sense, but it finds so much humor within it. Marty Augustine is a great example of a character who's just full of the humor that surges through the film. A sequence near the end depicts Augustine and his goons, one of which is Arnold Schwarzenegger, in an uncredited role that came out of the blue, with no lines whatsoever, taking off their clothes to reveal the truths.
See that? You take off your clothes, everything comes out honest.
The scene is so utterly bizarre that I can't help but laugh at it. And what adds to these moments of humor is Marlowe's dismissive attitude, as if these were everyday things he has to deal with. Gould's performance as Marlowe is brilliant, his line delivery falling right on point, which elevates the cool one-liners and hilarious jokes. His nonchalant attitude towards everything, from being questioned by cops to being followed by Harry, is portrayed so masterfully by Gould. The only time he really breaks this sort of attitude is the ending, where it's completely in character for it to happen. The final scene evokes so much emotion out of the viewer because this is Marlowe in a state we really haven't seen him in, despite everything he went through in the film, which makes the shot that hits Lennox even more impactful. Due to the entire film being Marlowe's perspective, we get a good idea of what he's like. We understand his morals and have a great understanding of him as a kind person who values human feelings despite his blasé attitude. Much like Philip Marlowe, the film itself is very nonchalant. A thriller? Sure, but it's really relaxed with its music and its settings, one of the main ones being a beach house. This calm atmosphere set against characters that really aren't that calm creates the perfect juxtaposition. How the final confrontation between Lennox and Marlowe occurs in a house next to a river with a hammock. There's always an emphasis on the thrilling sequences, whether it be Roger drowning himself or Augustine's visit to Marlowe's place due to the relaxing mood. And besides this, the film is just so damn cool, with that music that I've had on repeat for a while, and that airtight dialogue performed to perfection by the entire cast. I believe one of the things that Altman is trying to accomplish with The Long Goodbye is critique America in a way. With its depictions of crime, the riches of rich living on top with no worries until everything begins to crack, people trying to cheat each other, it's a constant race for money and everyone is participating. All of this is shown to us in such a subtle way. I was in awe, and I still am. Altman manages to pull off an interesting satire on the neo-noir genre with this film. Marlowe himself is a character archetype, the kind of guy you see in a regular neo-noir, and the film manages to pull off the classic vibe so effortlessly, leading into deconstruction of the genre as a whole. Its repetitiveness, its characters, its settings, and its music are all prominent in just about any other neo-noir you'll find. However, it manages to separate itself from just being another neo-noir. Altman pumps it full of exaggerations and uses it for comedy, as I stated earlier. With tons of match strikes, smoke, and jazz, it goes full throttle on the idea of the neo-noir and molds it into this commentary, perhaps out of love for the genre. The Long Goodbye is simply everything I wanted to be and more. It's melancholic when it needs to be, humorous when it needs to be, electrifying when it needs to be, and slick the entire time. Truly, a work of genius.